Hey friends, it is September 26th, Tuesday here in Edmonton, and I can't wait to go out there and take some photos, videos of the gorgeous changing of leaves. I see red now, just not just yellow and green and red. It looks amazing. I really like this time of year. And the fall market is an interesting market because typically we do see a little bit of a spike in activity and sales. Now, you don't necessarily see listings spike up in coming on the market, but you do see some sales come on just because people are wanting to move and get in the house still before the holiday season, and also before the dreaded S word starts to fall in Edmonton, which is about in a month, which is kind of crazy that in 30 days we could see snow. We could actually probably see it honestly anytime. We do live in Edmonton after all. So let's just talk about how many listings we currently have on the market right now. We have 2,845 single family home properties, and that's not a whole lot more than last week. So you can see it's not changing a whole lot, and it's been like that for the last few weeks. We haven't seen a huge increase or decrease in the listings. In St. Albert, we see 193 versus 198, in Sherwood Park 116 over 120, Spruce Grove 174 over 176, and Beaumont 107 over 103, which is all within about five-ish listings from last week, either up or down. So nothing too crazy. It's basically the same activity. What this implies is that it could be the fact that there are more listings. There could be these listings coming up new, and then the sales are the same or a little bit higher. And that's why the listings are staying about the same. Now, if you take a look at the pending sales from last week, you'll see that in Edmonton, there was 181 versus 217. So they did last week drop in sales. Now, don't forget, it's not specifically last week that this is reflecting. It's probably likely, oh, wait, sorry. No, this is. This is like people who wrote offers. So it went under contract in the last week, 181 versus the previous week at 217, which makes sense. It's September 26th. People in September, right when they got back into school, want to, hey, let's get on this and get on a house and get our plans, get possession in end of October, November. So right now, if you're buying, you're looking at possession in November, December. You can still get a house in October, though, if you're buying right now. It depends on the seller, depends on the situation. Now, in Sherwood Park, you had 17 versus 16, St. Albert's 16 versus 12, Spruce Grove 10 versus 15, and Beaumont 5 versus 7. So again, very similar from the week before, nothing too significant. Pending sales, I mean, there was that interest increase is supposed to be announced again I believe it's next week. So I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like if everyone is like me, myself, you're just sick and tired of hearing about these interest rate increases. And so you're just kind of figuring out, how do we make things work with our life? If we're needing to move into a home, what price point do we need to adjust to? What expectations do we need to adjust to make things work? Because obviously it's inevitable that the interest rates will go up and they will go down. And so you can't just sit around waiting for that. Now, sold in the last 7 days, we've seen, now these are properties that likely were pending a week or two ago and the conditions were removed. So that's what solds mean. 190 versus 192. Now, you might be wondering, are there any people putting in unconditional sale offers? I don't see them as much this year, not even close. I have heard about them. I specifically haven't seen them. I've seen them in the new build world as well. In the world of Sterling, I see still deals coming through that have no conditions, which kind of blows my mind. Sometimes people put no conditions, but they do still have financing. They're just trying to win the deal. And we saw a lot of that in the early half of last year, but not as much this year. In St. Albert, we saw more solds in the last 7 days than the prior, like 17 versus 7. In Sherwood Park, 17 versus 15, so just 2 different. Spruce Grove was only 1 different. And then in Beaumont, we saw 14. So we did see more sales happen and become firm, because just because a deal goes pending doesn't mean it's going to go sold. It could die because of financing. It could die because they saw an inspection and didn't like it. There's a lot of different reasons. When it comes to new builds, a lot of times it's because they didn't get financing, but sometimes they change their mind or they found something else. Now, this week we are in Beaumont. Sterling is launching a brand new neighborhood. And so that's going to be interesting. There's sales that they're accepting. I think they're doing a draw on the 30th for sales there. And then there's 26 other homes that are available for sale from October 1st to 3rd. Now, they're doing a held basically offer, and they're taking a look at what's happening there. and then they'll decide. Now, don't forget, new home sales are not included in these stats because if they're not listed on MLS, it won't be there. So hello, I just see a hello message. If you have any questions you want to put in the comments, go ahead and dump them in the comments and I'll be happy to help you answer them if I can. The real estate market is obviously an unpredictable market. I can't just say to you, this is what's going to happen and that's what's going to happen. However, it is quite normal. It's normalized this whole entire year. So in the last few years, we saw the market kind of like go like this, and we did not understand what was going on. Nobody knew what was happening. No matter how much experience you had, it was a big surprise. Everyone was questioning it. This year has normalized, and I think that's what I expected. And so a normalized market in Edmonton means that we don't have a huge increase every year. It is affordable because your equity doesn't grow like a monster every year. You're not going to grow by 10, 20, $30,000. You might grow by 5. So it's a much smaller growth. And if you take a look at what's going on in our neighboring neighbors to the south, they're still crazy. They're still booming and they're still seeing multiple offers. Their market, you have to move on it. So we're starting to see people who wanted to be in Calgary move to Edmonton just because it's more affordable here. But you have to remember what you're getting yourself into. Edmonton and Calgary are two very different cities, just like Edmonton and Toronto and Vancouver are very different. So when people come here from Ontario and BC, they're going, wait, this is not what I signed up for. Our pace of life is definitely a lot slower than Toronto and Vancouver. We have a whole lot less people, and the market itself it's strong, but it's not going to be like that, where if you bought a place and you expected you could sell next year if you didn't like it, keep in mind that's not going to be the case. You will probably lose money if you don't stay in your 3 to 5 year mortgage term. So if you have any, questions, like don't buy a condo in Edmonton. I know I just said that. But if you're buying a condo in Edmonton, it needs to be lifestyle specific. So for example, we have a listing that is 18 plus and it faces the River Valley. It's gorgeous. Great home for someone who is 18 plus, probably actually retired, because you don't want to do all the maintenance. So if that's your lifestyle, that makes sense. If you are a young family looking to start a home and you figure this is the thing I can afford right now, you're going to get trapped, because we see this time and time again. There's no equity to grab from that condo to put into your next home that you actually want, because now you have kids and pets and you can't fit in that apartment anymore. If you can't afford that as your first starter home, I would recommend keep renting and saving up down payment until you can get it. Now, the rental market here in Edmonton, we're not super familiar with, because as realtors in Edmonton, we don't do the sale or the rentals. However, I am aware of what's happening, and it is quite expensive and it is hard to find rentals. So if you're looking for a strategy of how do I enter into the real estate market, the best two people to talk to when you're trying to strategize how to get out of the rental market into the home buying market, first and foremost, a really great mortgage broker who knows their stuff, someone you can trust. I know right now people are rate shopping because they're seeing their rates are going from here and then, oh, this one's a little bit lower, but it's not always about the interest rates. That person that gives you that low interest rates, that just throws it out there, may not give you that support that you need long term. Think about this person as your partner to help you with your financial decision. Your financial advisor, you didn't necessarily say, well, you're cheaper, so I'm going to go with you as a financial advisor. You're picking the person based on their knowledge, their experience, their ability to help you and understand you. Do they hear you? Do they get what your goals are? Once you talk to a mortgage broker to set that strategy in place, they can give you a financial plan and timeline of what you need to do and when you're able to purchase your first home. Once you've got that under wraps, that second person you need to talk to, you guessed it, is a professional realtor. We can help give you insight on what you can actually afford with that price point, because you might want to live in this area for this price point, but then you're expecting this kind of house. But reality is this kind of house is going to cost you this much more or whatever. So if you want to make that true plan, you want to talk to the mortgage broker and then the realtor. And so then you can see what's going on. Hello, Safa. What is the best option for a family of 4? They advise a townhouse. And what do you think? So I guess it depends on your price point. If your price point is on the lower side, so our average single family home price right now is just under 500,000, so about 492. If you're looking to buy a 2-story home, that's, move-in ready, doesn't have significant issues, that's the price point you should look at buying at 500. Now, this being said, that's for the newer areas. The older areas, that price point is going to get you an older home. And even honestly, in the 450s, you're still going to get a house that potentially needs work, might have electrical issues, might have like grading issues. If you want something that's done up, you're going to be spending well over 600. If you're looking at, people say, well, how can I buy a house for under 400,000? Because I think around 400 is about a $2,000 a month mortgage payment, roughly. It depends on your own situation and whatnot. But under 400,000, you definitely are looking at, you can buy a townhouse with no condo fees. There are some of those in the new neighborhoods. They do have a bit of a yard, they're detached garage, so it's not a massive yard, but there is a yard. And the house itself is anywhere from 12 to 1,400 square feet. Some of them have finished basements, some of them don't. If you're looking at condominiumized townhouses, then you're looking in the lower 300s, but there is condo fees. So there is that discrepancy between, hey, the purchase price is low 300s, but I have condo fees. Or if you pay a little on the high 300s, there's no condo fees. When you take a look at the monthly amount, you have to qualify for the same anyways. I would always go for the one with no condo fees if possible. If you have to buy a place with condo fees because of your price point restriction, then I would buy something that is a townhouse and not an apartment style condominium, because at least that one has a chance of growing. For a family of 4, it might be a challenge because you're not going to have that second living space. I always make the comment that you need to do the living room and a bonus room or a basement. Because if you have kids, you kind of want your separate spaces. In these townhouses with condo fees, they typically have the garage as the basement, and then you have the living space, and then you have the bedroom space. There is no extra space to get out. So you'll start to feel more crammed quicker, and there's typically no yard in those ones as well. So there's no extra space. We're moving into those winter months, and you're not even going to have the ability to go outside in the yard as like an extra space. I'm just curious. It says, thanks, really appreciate it. It's not far from the price of the last year. So last year, you're okay. You need to understand that last year at this time, very similar, if not actually a little bit lower, though the interest rates are higher. But if you're comparing last year to January of last year, we are significantly different, just for the record. It is not even close to January of last year's pricing. January 2022 and February 2022 and March 2022 was very inflated. And then it drastically adjusted itself in May, June. And so we did that. So if you've been watching every week, you'll notice that the sales have gone down. The interest rates are quite a bit higher, obviously, than it was last year at this time. And it makes the affordability different. So if you could approve for a $450,000 mortgage last year, you may not approve for that same amount this year because of the fact that interest rates are higher and you have to qualify with that higher rate. So people think I'll just wait till the interest rates drop, but so is everybody else. And so the price points that we're seeing right now will be driven upwards because there's more demand. More demand means people play multiple offers. They push that price point up, and because they're like, I have a low interest rate. I don't suspect the interest rates are going to drop to 2% again anytime soon. Maybe I'm wrong, but I highly doubt it. I'm even doubtful they'll get to 4. I think 4%, if it hits that mark, you're on the money. And I think at 4%, our sales will increase by quite a bit. Now you can think last year, we were all thinking under 3%. And you're going, what do you mean 4% is a good rate? But perspective changes in 1 year. So keep in mind when you're figuring out what you want to do, don't forget, don't just look at the price point of the house and the kind of house you're getting. Don't forget not just the location in the city, but also location in terms of if your family's not here, are you actually okay with that long term? If your friends aren't here, are you okay with that? Is your lifestyle going to be reflected differently? We don't have the same pace of life as Toronto. Are you okay to give that up? Because if you're not okay to give it up, and maybe you should actually rent first and live here for a little bit before you make that jump, even though you think to yourself, well, I'm going to just buy and I'll invest. If you're looking for an investment property, make sure you stay, please, please, please stay in the price point of $350 to $450. That's the price point that's the most popular. You do not want to invest in $1 million home here in Edmonton because that is not a home that people flip. That is a home people stay in and hold for quite a long time because it is an investment. to live in $1 million home here in Edmonton. Yes, you get a lot of home, but you're definitely not going to be able to flip that next year. You may end up dropping, especially when those houses become so specific. So we will be back here next week, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Hopefully there's no